You're watching Tech Talk in affiliation with Tech for Techs. We're a community that supports independent trade with the help of vendors and distributors. We're live every Thursday at 8 p.m. London time, and we'll be streaming to Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, Google, TuneIn, and many more. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, and your host, Philip Griffiths.
Hello everyone and welcome to Tech for Tech Tech Talk. This is an IT podcast where we help your IT business grow. Right, first of all, if you are watching, please comment in the comment section. Obviously, let us know who you are, where you're from, just so we know actually people are watching and we're just not wasting our time on a Thursday evening. Right, so today we've got Sam with us. Sam, if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us exactly who you are and what you do, and then we'll go on to some more in-depth stuff in a few minutes.
Yeah, so my name's Sam McNally, as I'm sure you can see from the badge that I've got there. Better known by ALM Wholesale Limited, but essentially we have another brand that has been in the works for quite some time, Resaki or Tech. And what we're going to be talking about today is essentially doing component recycling. So instead of scrapping them, why not send them to us where we can process them and give you some money, which would be good. So, I'll let you follow on from there, Phil, and let me know what you want to talk about.
Right, okay, thank you for that. So let's go straight to chat. So we've got at least one person watching anyway from Ireland. So hi, Cormy, how you doing? Hope you're enjoying the weather over there. It's quite warm over here. I'm guessing it's pretty warm over there as well, but I've not really looked, to be honest. How's it with you at the moment, Sam? Is it pretty warm down there, or is it still a bit cool or wet?
No, very nice. Very, very nice.
Very nice.
I was travelling up to Huddersfield, and then I went to Daventry and then Rainham, so it was quite a fair few miles yesterday. And Huddersfield was not so nice. Daventry was lovely, and then Rainham, it was nicer. So I'm not too sure about people up in the north, but it seemed to be nicer down in the south, definitely yesterday.
It must be just a line then, because Huddersfield, I suppose, not too far further up than us, but it's been quite warm here. So, but then again, it's always warmer further south you go, isn't it? So, right, okay. So, chat is a little bit quiet tonight. So, I'll just say again, if you are watching, please comment in the chat so we know who you are, where you're from, and basically let us know what company you're working at, and we'll give you a shout out. So tonight's show is about money for your hard drive or HDD, or solid state drives as well even, and basically Sam's going to tell us basically how we're going to make money from it, or how you can. I've had a good personal experience from it. I used the service a few weeks ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and got quite a bit of cash out of it. Otherwise these drives were just sitting there doing nothing. So first, before we go any further, we're just going to play this little video, and I'll just quickly say hi to Mark at Rayleigh Computer Shop. So we've got a little video. There's no sound to it, so sorry if it's a little bit quiet, but here you go. Okay, and we're back. So hopefully that wasn't too quiet for you all out there, but there we go. So basically, I think that little video told us everything. I think we can go home now and put our feet up, Sam.
Wouldn't that be nice with the amount of calls I'm doing in a day? But oh, we go.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I'm going to say it's working till gone past 10 o'clock most nights at the moment, especially with TechMax coming up. So, yeah, before we get into the show, I've got to do today's sponsor. So, obviously, these guys pay the bills, and today's sponsor is Windows 11, powerful, productive, and profitable for resellers. Windows 11 was built with usability, efficiency, and security in mind, reimagining the way a PC should work. Windows 11 has been beautifully simplified with a streamlined UI. It's simple to upgrade. VIP is your destination for genuine Windows 11. Contact your VIP account manager for the latest pricing and bundle deals. And there we go, and that was from VIP and Windows 11. And talking about Windows 11, they have just, we are just confirming today that they will also be attending TechMax in June on the 24th. So you'll have Microsoft/Windows 11, however they want to be called these days. They will be attending, as will VIP, and there'll be a few other names we'll be announcing tomorrow as well. We should have the full list ready for early next week of every single one attending. And talking about people attending TechMax, I think this guy here is going to be attending as well, aren't you, Sam?
100%, yes. Missed out on the other event that wasn't allowed to go there, but that would have just been mingling. But yeah, the TechMax one, definitely very interested in that one. Looks really good as well. I like the venue, so it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a pretty good venue. I'm going to say it's got huge rooms. We ended up having to book the whole stadium, basically. We started off with one room, and then it was like 2 rooms, and then 3 rooms, and then sort of 4 rooms. So it's got bigger and bigger and bigger, the event has. So we basically can't get any bigger at the venue we're going. So, which is pretty good considering it's the first event we've done like this. So, right. Let's get on to the main topic then. So, you're going to tell us how we're going to make money from your hard drives or recycling stuff and so forth. So I'll let you start off with your spill, and then we'll get some questions in. And so if anyone does have any questions, make sure you put them in the comment section. I'm guessing you're all going to ask, and the first question usually has to do with money. And the first question I have a feeling will be, how much money am I going to get? So yeah. I'll let you start off with that, Sam. So you start off and let us know exactly what this whole thing is about.
So essentially, the whole idea with what we're doing here is obviously to collect the drives and look to give you some money. When we did the research into the market, a lot of these companies, in actual fact, we were working with in a partnered state where eventually, we would take all of the equipment from them, and these companies would do confidential shredding, they would do data wiping, and it might be that it's an IT recycler, ITAD, or it might be that it's a company that primarily specializes in shredding. And the one thing that I just couldn't get my head around was the fact that, companies, whether it be a standard, run-of-the-mill business, Joe Bloggs with his accountancy firm, or, somebody that you guys are, are supporting, in actual fact, maybe more than likely, or if it's just the IC support or laptop repair company. What we kept finding over and over and over again was that you were either being charged for shredding, charged for wiping, or best case scenario, doing scrappage value, which in actual fact is 30p on a 3.5 inch PC size drive or server drive, and 6p on a 2.5 inch laptop drive. So from there, we started with, in actual fact, one of the guys on the group, which is Nick Rutter from Nikon IT. I said to him, look, can we try this out? And we tried it a couple of times, and he was very happy with the amounts of money he was getting. The one thing about us is when we are offering money, it's not just money based upon the size, it's also based upon the health. Now, sometimes people are saying to me, like, why don't you offer any money on like a 160, 250, 320? Well, the reason is because it's highly likely to fail. And in actual fact, what we do with these drives, if we're not going to resell them, then we are going to utilize them in older machines, i.e. first, second, third, fourth, and even 5th generation now, what with Windows 11, which was just advertised coming out. As I'm sure you're all aware, it will go on to the 6th gen, it might go on to the 5th gen, but, is it going to be supported? Well, not for very much longer. So in actual fact, what we're doing is getting these hard drives, putting them into these sort of older machines that are, no longer relevant here. and sending them over to Africa, Middle East, in schools, hospital projects. And if we're not doing that, then we are just reselling them to exporters that, more than likely are taking them to countries like that and utilizing them. The thing we're finding with places like that is they just don't get SSD. The cost of an SSD is for them too expensive, and they are very much driven by size. They don't really see the benefit of the SSD. They would rather have the storage. So in actual fact, a 500 gig hard drive is going to sell significantly better for me than what a 256 SSD would. And in actual fact, it's, a lot cheaper. But the long and short of it is that, anything 500 gig upwards, we're going to be offering money on, and not just offering money based upon, like I say, the size. It would also be based upon the health. So, for example, we would offer in the region of like £3 for a 500 gig hard drive, for example. But, you might ask yourself, well, look, why don't I sell that on eBay? Which, some of our customers that we talk to say, yeah, look, we already selling these on eBay. And I'm like, well, that's fine. What data wiping software are you using? Do you have the certificate stored? Do you have the right documentation there? If you were to get audited, would you have all your, ducks in a row? You may well do. Likelihood is you don't. And in actual fact, when I talk to these companies, a lot of them go, no. I mean, in actual fact, just to give you an idea, basically everybody on this show, everybody in the group should have what's called a T11 license. My friend Simon Jeffrey would tell you that. He got a waste carrier's license. The Environmental Agency went and audited him, found out that he didn't have a T11. And a T11 license is something that you are required to have in order to repair items, where a waste carrier's license is just to carry it. So the long and short of it is, if the Environmental Agency thought it was a really big thing, they'd be knocking down all your doors. So I wouldn't go getting really worried and going, oh my God, I need to get it. But the idea here is, is to let you guys know that we have all of that. We've got the ISO 9, the ISO 14, we've got the T11 license, waste carriers. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So allow us to be able to, take away these items from you, give you the right documentation. And like I say, a 500 gig hard drive, yes, you could potentially sell that on eBay. Are you going to get a return? You might well do. Are you going to get a return with me? No. In regards to the sale, are you going to sit that 500 gig hard drive on there against loads of other people? Yes. With me, are you going to sell it quickly? Yes. I mean, the turnaround time in most cases is probably 2 or 3 days. I mean, we've done 6 or 7 customers just today. Pure IT 365, Cambridge Computers, one of the guys on the group, Ill IT Solutions. Who else did we do? A few people. 24/7 computer doctor, I think, Kevin Eaton. In actual fact, he found us off of your post that you put up, Phil. And in actual fact, with him, got to give the guy, he definitely did his due diligence. I always struggle with that word. And was asking me, what are your accreditations, what are your licenses, and whatever else. And so we sent him all of our certificates, which if you want them, I'm more than happy to give them to you. We get audited quite regularly, and it is painful, utterly painful. However, it's just one of those things. But the long and short of it is, and to go back to what I was initially saying, I apologize. 500 gig hard drive, £3, but that's £3 based upon it being 95% health to 100% health. And the reason why we can do that is because we can do what's called a quick fix. So we can, do all sorts of different things with relocating sectors, and then you go down to the next step, which is the 80 to 95%, which we would offer, slightly less, but still considerably more than what you would get scrappage value. And in actual fact, bear in mind with other companies, they're charging you, which we're not. So, that's where you start to find that the money starts to add up, because even if you've not got loads of drives that are 100%, you've got drives that what you are considering to be failed. I mean, look, you're not going to put a drive that's under 100% health into a machine and put your warranty on it. I mean, would you even put a hard drive into a machine? Probably not. You're going to put an SSD in, right? You might use that hard drive as an external caddy. You might well do that. But at the same time, the 2.5-inch drives we offer more value for. So if you're going to do that, not a problem. Put the 3.5-inch in there that we don't offer as much value on. That one will be used as the external caddy, and then do the 2.5-inch to us and get more value. A terabyte hard drive, which we find most customers in actual fact have quite a considerable amount of 500 gig, 640, 750, and then they have a lot of terabytes. Terabytes we're offering £8 for. So, you've only got to get 10 of those drives, and I know nobody on here is stupid, but you do 10 times 8, and that's £80. £80. And, just to give you an idea, I mean, we say that all costs are built into the service. I was saying that delivery is free. Now, that doesn't sound right, because if, for example, the value of your drives is outweighed by the cost of the delivery collection, which, just so you're aware, we get a very good price on delivery and collection. When we're sending out the tub with all the packaging, it's £7.50 each way. So it's very cheap. It's not, we can book it whenever you want. We send you a label. It's very easy. But in regards to that, that cost is built into the service. So worst case scenario, you are getting charged absolutely nothing, and you are getting all of your documentation. You're getting the storage tub sent to you. All of that is done, and it's just so easy. The tub turns up, you open it up, bubble wraps in there, layer a hard drive, layer a bubble wrap, like a sandwich system, or a layered system, sorry. And as long as you pack it well, I mean, we've had customers that have, no word of a lie, just thrown them in, and we're still giving them value back. But obviously, if you don't do that, there's more chance of more value. So, look, you can throw them in if you want to, but if you want to get value, then don't do that. So the idea is to, send that tub out, get them back. And what we're finding is that in actual fact, in most cases, we're paying out £50, £100, £200. I mean, 24/7 computer doctor Kevin Eaton, I mean, he's about to see an email where he's going to get £411.50, and that's with £30 removed from the 2 tubs, which was each way £7.50. I'm sure he's going to be very happy. Pure IT 365, the tech geeks. I mean, their payout this evening that I've just sent to them was £210.50. But a small amount, £50, £100 maybe, a larger amount, maybe a bit more. But I mean, it all depends on what you're sending. I mean, sometimes we're getting, just older hard drives, PC drives. But in some cases, we're getting SSDs, we're getting RAM. There's lots of different things that we're offering. And not to go too far down the line, I mean, the idea was to talk about the pricing, which there is a structure that can be sent over. I did send it over to Phil. The idea is that eventually we will start to move on to, carrying other items. We could be taking laptops, for example. We could take phones, we could take tablets, and, your laptop repair shops. I'm not fussed whether if the laptop's got a known fault. I don't care. If there's 1 or 2 out of 10 that are stripped to the bone, it wouldn't be a big problem. But the idea is that we have had some customers along the way that have said to us, we've got some hard drives, but they're stuck in loads of machines, and I don't want to remove them. Well, okay, well then we'll just collect the machines, and that's just another conversation that we'll get onto later on. But then you start to get down the route of, do you want to strip the board out, all this sort of stuff, and you could do all of that and get money from it. But then you've got the plastic carcass. What are you going to do with that? And that is, what's called persistent organic pollutants. So then you start to go down a whole nother bit there. So, I mean, obviously the pricing you can see is on the structure here. And like I say, with the SSDs, we've got those on there as well. And we've also got RAM on there. The only thing that we ask with RAM is that 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 it comes from a working environment, or you are aware that it's tested. We have ways of sort of marking the RAM so that we know where it's coming from, because it sells for every 4 or 5 loads that we do, we're then it's moving through. So it's quite easy for us to track the RAM. So we just, we fingers crossed and hope and put our trust in our customers as well as, you guys do with us and Gail, sorry. If you say it's tested, it's tested. So we'll pay it because there isn't really a very easy way of testing multiple RAM sticks quickly, or not something that we've found yet. And if anybody is aware of that, please tell me because that would definitely help us. But in regards to the hard drives and SSDs, that's very straightforward for us. We can do probably around about nearly 1,000 a day when we're really hitting it hard. And like I say, I was just talking to Phil beforehand. Some of the contracts that we've got off the back of doing this service. The last month we will, by the end of this month, would have hit around about 15 to 16,000 hard drives, not taking into consideration RAM and SSDs.
Yeah, that's pretty good going, to be honest. I had a good experience with it. I'm going to say Sam called me and says, "Hey, have you got any old hard drives?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got loads of boxes in the back, the waiting for disposal or whatever." Around about, I think about 150 3.5 inch and about 100 2.5 inch, I think it was. Around about 2/3 of them were faulty. He took them all. Basically paid out for I think it was about 1/3 of them, I think it was, and I still managed to get like 300 and odd pounds. I can't remember the exact amount off the top of my head. It was about 330, I think it was. But yeah, it was 330 quid. Plus he sent on me all the documentations and everything. It was very simple. So first of all, he called. He basically took me address, which he knew already anyway. I got the boxes the next day. I put the hard drives in there. And then basically let him know that all the hard drives were in there, called him back or emailed him. I can't remember which way it was round. And then you collected him actually the same day, but usually the next day. And I think 2 or 3 days after, I was basically, you sent me the sheet, basically an email saying, "Here's all your destruction information and pricing and so forth." And the payment was in my account by the end of that day. So within a week, you pretty much 300 quid out of nothing, sort of thing. So yeah, very impressed with it, and happened a lot quicker than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be one of these things where it was going to take like 2 or 3 weeks or something, but no, it was all sorted in pretty much less than a week, probably quicker if I managed to put them in the box quicker.
The one thing I will say, and this is me just being upfront and honest, the whole reason we get in the reviews we get is because if I can't help you, then I'll if physically in the process that we offer, I'll always look to offer advice. If you decide you don't want to use our service, it doesn't mean that I'm going to turn around and say, I'm not going to help you. Look, all the people in the group have supported us at one point or another, and if you haven't, if it wouldn't be with advice, then something else. Look, I'm just looking at the chats here, and I've got just Facebook user, so I can't see the name, so I apologise. Totally agree. Sam was threatened with a fine. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. Effectively, it's your property. But at the end of the day, wouldn't you rather it just be done with something that's straightforward and easy? This is not some, ridiculous money-making scheme. The thing about where we are and what's going on, we're all aware of it, David Attenborough and all these other people. It's just crazy, shredding drives and getting charged for it. What is that about? And these other companies, your typical IT recycler, ITAD, that is very close to you potentially. A lot of the reason we find that companies have been using these IT recyclers is because with an IT recycling company, you're very much reliant upon the value of the equipment that you're collecting, unless you're charging for the service. And somebody like a laptop repair shop, or what you'd normally consider like a sort of not lower but smaller tier company, they're looking to try and make cost savings, not get charged, and these large IT recyclers, they're going to, or companies that primarily deal in just shredding. That's crazy that there are companies that all they do is shred. So it just shows you, like, there's multiple companies doing it, right? It just makes no sense to me. I just think it's absolutely disgusting. It's daylight robbery, literally daylight robbery. And the fact that these companies, are doing that, it's nuts. I mean, we're partnered with an ITAD that I've known for a very long time, and we do all of their sales. So they send all of their equipment to us. We test it, check it, wipe it, and everything. And I know that one of the main guys there, the amount of money that they are making from doing mobile shredding. Now, I understand with some businesses, i.e., for example, like banks. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? If that got caught, in transport, we'd all be, throwing a fit. But realistically, outside of a bank or solicitors, the information is limited, and for what really is someone going to get from it? They potentially could get some bank information, other bits and pieces, but and don't get me wrong, obviously that's important. But in a lot of cases, what we find with the target customer base that we're looking at, which at the moment is you guys, laptop repair shops, IT support companies, that sort of thing. You are more than welcome. I mean, the storage tubs are more than secure. They're cable tied up. The crocodile tooth tubs, they're more than secure. But if you want to wipe them before, you are more than welcome. More than welcome to wipe them before. I mean, in actual fact, we have had customers that have gone the full whole hog. They have tested them, wiped them, done a full audit and all of it. And it was like, well, what was the point you even using the service? But nonetheless, they want the money, right? And they want it quick and they want it easy. But, the idea is that I'm never going to stop you, or the company, should I say, is never going to stop you from your policies and your procedures and what you do. You are more than welcome. We're just going to do it again. So it's done twice. So, you can rest assured knowing that from the point that we accept them, it's our responsibility to carry those items, from A to B. And then once they're here, make sure it's secure as possible. And, if anyone ever feels a bit worried and, they want to pop down and come and see what we're all about and see what's going on here, I mean, you'll see it's literally looks like a standard warehouse, but, it's like Fort Knox. There are cameras everywhere. We've got, I mean, there isn't any daylight coming into the building, which is quite unfortunate. I'm not really getting much of a tan. But we've got 18 mil thick plyboard, which is structured around the windows. And we've got alarms here, there and everywhere, and gated doors and all sorts, because we know what we're dealing with. We don't take it lightly. We understand that, if we were to get robbed, there is that potential that, there is a data breach. But, I'm pretty confident that the kind of people that would target us would be targeting us because they want to nick a mobile phone, not a hard drive. But, there you go. But, I mean, like I say, in regards to the fine, do you really want it? Would you rather us just deal with it and give you some money? I mean, the likelihood is that we're going to. I mean, Mark, obviously, just commenting there. He does general wiping and general stick of the health to the drive prior to sending. That's just our procedure before they leave our premises. I mean, it's great. I mean, if we really get to a point where we trust that customer enough, we may even adopt their testing process. They've already tested them, so why would we test them again? And then we might, just wipe them. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. With Nikon IT, I've known Nick for such a long time. We went to school together and everything. I know for a fact that there is, he is definitely not doing that. So if he tests them, puts the percentage on the drive for me, for him really. So, I'll just take that as gospel. I'll be completely honest, because he's using the same software as us. We use Sentinel, which is with on a Linux-based software. It's significantly better to use that than using it on Windows. It's not that Windows is bad as an operating system. It's just a lot more complicated, and we find that the software tends to freeze a lot more, which sometimes can give you a false positive. So, for example, it would tell you it's 100%, and then in actual fact it's not. It's failed, and we don't want to be paying out for something that's failed, and vice versa. We don't want to be not giving you money for something that is good. So we use it via a Linux system, and it's very good. Sentinel, very, very straightforward and easy to use. We're essentially testing it. We want to see that 100% health, 95% health for the different price points. But we also want to be listening to the drive to hear, is it clicking? Is it whirring? Is it starting up really quickly? In actual fact, sometimes you hear it sounds like it's making like alien spaceship laser noises. So the only way I can explain it really, even though it doesn't sound very professional. So it's a very simple and straightforward system, and then the data wiping, that's where it, gets a little bit more complicated. But essentially, even if we were to use a basic wipe, there is the opportunity to use a more significant wipe if you want. I mean, we're actually do a lot of projects with a company called Global, where they are the reseller of White Canyon software, which, my opinion, Blanco have definitely fallen off and White Canyon are significantly better. There are things, certain machines like Octa-core and whatever else that they can wipe that, Blanco can't. In actual fact, Blanco's gone a lot more down the route of not just wiping, but testing. So it will wipe the machine, test it at the same time, and give you like a rundown of the specs of the machine. White Canyon is primarily wiping, and it's very good. I mean, we've got rigs, about £15,000 worth of rig where we can do, maybe 50 drives at a time. So, and in actual fact, we've got benches here as well, which we've had made, where we can run up to 450 machines, which we would just run via a server, Ethernet cables running out into the machines. And basically, we can wipe, a considerable amount, maybe around about just under 1,000 machines within a 24-hour period, because we can leave them overnight. So this is literally what we do. And we did, primarily go out to businesses, but it was such a saturated market because, like I say, with an IT recycler, you are restricted by your mile radius. So, for example, Joe Bloggs is in Scotland, and he says to me, and I'm, London way. He was like, he's like, can you come up and collect, 5 laptops and 3 PCs? And I'm like, well, no, it's not enough value, And so I would then advise him or her, why don't you use this company that I'm aware of, and I'm giving that other company business, And I thought to myself, look, don't get me wrong, I'm a nice guy, but, nobody wants to do themselves out of business, especially when, they feel that they're better. So this is where we started to go down this route of looking at components and working out a way of how could we effectively collect them. And this is where the storage tubs came in. And from there, we could then open up the radius, to a much bigger area. Cormac, for example, he's going to be sending us some. It's a little bit more difficult with Northern Ireland and Ireland. We've got to find some way of being able to book, because where we've come out of the EU, it makes it a bit more difficult. But essentially, if you are in the UK, Wales, Scotland, England, we can set out a storage tub and collect those drives and get them back here. So, if you want to wipe them, whatever you want to do, just, in my honest opinion, do not have these companies come in and shred them and wipe them and charge you. It's just madness. And then the scrappage, are you getting the right documentation? I mean, look at the documentation that you're getting when you've had them scrapped. Is it the same documentation as what we're giving? It is nowhere near, absolutely nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I agree there. The documentation we got that much documentation. It was, if I probably printed it out, I'd have a huge pile. So, but yeah, we've got everything we needed there, to be honest with you. Right, let's just go to some of the questions. We've got 1 or 2 preset questions what came in before. So first of all is, do you take anything else other than drives? And obviously you've mentioned the RAM. So for example, do you take desktop PCs or laptops or mobile phones or anything like that?
So effectively at the moment we have, not with the the customer base that we're finding on Tech for Techs, what we were finding was that most of the machines, phones, tablets, laptops, were more than likely going to have known faults, right? So the idea was to try and not avoid it, but it was kind of like, how can we make that work, right? So PCs and monitors are always going to be a problem. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. But just bear in mind that, you know, as a laptop repair shop or as a business, you legally are allowed to go to your local recycling center once a month. Now, you would be charged, but it's going to be next to nothing. You know, like literally they might charge you a couple of quid an item or something like that, right? So if you can reuse it, which you're going to do more than likely, you know, then reuse it. But if you can't, then use that. But laptops with known faults, mobile phones, tablets, all these sort of things. These are all things that with the storage tubs that, I mean, you know, Phil can, you know, fill you in with that one, is, you know, they are more than big enough to carry. I mean, with mobile phones, you know, geez, probably do about 200. Tablets, a significant quantity as well. They're not much bigger and they don't weigh a lot more. I mean, we can go up to 30 kilos, you see, in a tub. So in one of these tubs, you know, for example, we're being charged, we're being charged £7.50 each way. So that's what we charge, you know, when we find that there's value. But to give you an idea, you know, we can get up to 60 PC drives, and, you know, we can get up to 300 laptop drives, SSDs, and that's not even taking into consideration RAM or M.2s or MSARs. I mean, wow, you know, you get thousands because they weigh so little. In regards to other items, though, yeah, mobile phones, a lot. I mean, we've already done it already. We collected from the hospital in Manchester. I can't remember what it's called now. It's like the Royal Hospital or something. They had, which was, you know, mind my language here. Well, I'm not going to swear, but, you know, it was pretty disgusting because they had, I think it was about 200 brand new mobile phones that had been bought with, you know, more than likely taxpayers' money, you know, through the NHS. They bought these brand new phones and they just sat there and they'd never even used them, which is just, you know, terrible, isn't it? So we collected them, resold them. They get a percentage, we get a percentage. So that's standard remarketing, which is something that we do. Eventually, we will go to, you know, businesses, laptop repair shops, IT support companies, and say to them, look, if you've got a business, you know, and you want us to, you know, you want to do the collection because you might just have a standard waste carriers license, 100 quid, 200 quid, I think it is, for like 3 years. You know, we can rely on you to go and collect the equipment. You know, we then, you know, collect it from you, and then we can look to sell that and give you a percentage back. And in actual fact, in most cases, it's like, you know, 60% to the customer, 40% to us, or 70-30. It just depends. And the idea is that we have so many avenues to move this equipment, you see. I mean, if I can sell a 160 gig hard drive, I can sell anything, right? It just doesn't matter. And, you know, to go back to the question at hand, you've got, you know, laptops we can collect, mobile phones we can collect, tablets we can collect, because what we were finding with some of our customers, you know, Icon Computer Supplies being one of them, he said to me, look, I just don't have time, you know, to strip the hard drives and the RAM out of these machines, you know, and then what am I supposed to do with the rest? And I'm like, well, you could strip the board out and you could use someone like AWA Refiners, but I haven't looked into it too much. I mean, I know Dean from Smart Computers uses them, but in actual fact, he's considering using us, because I said to him, you know, you're getting an amount of money for the board, but are you getting money for the rest of the machine, the carcass, you know, like, so you could take the screen out, you could take the board out, but if the screen's broken, you're going to get charged for that screen because it's considered hazardous. The rest of the machine being plastic or whatever it may be, you know, that's persistent organic pollutant. So this is where we started to go, right, you know, even though it's got a known fault, you know, why don't we take it? Because if we can utilize it for parts, or you know, we can find some avenue to move that where it can be effectively fixed, because you might have a first generation Dell Latitude, for example, and you might go, right, this E6410, you know, like, there's no value in that to me. It's a first generation. It probably wouldn't even load Windows 10. So what am I going to do with it? Am I going to fix it? No. I mean, if it's got a fault, what am I going to do? Well, yeah, but when we start to look at, avenues like Africa, like the Middle East, there are people out there that are going to just chomp at the bit for this stuff, right? So, it's got a known fault. But for me, we're going to get it in, we're going to test it, we're going to check it. More than likely, if you're saying to me, I've got 30 laptops and they've got known faults, the idea would be is that I'm going to go to you, look, I want to try and offer you value for the drives and the RAM that come out of those machines. But in regards to the actual machine, whether we can offer money for that or not, I'm not quite sure yet. But the whole idea is that, if you've got limited space, and you're looking to move that equipment, and, because we've got a massive warehouse, so, we can quite easily hold it here. The idea would be that if we can have discussions around this, and for example, like, if I was talking to Phil, I'd be saying to him, do you know if these laptops work? Because if you do, then we can work on a basis where we get it in, we test it, we cross compare with what you're saying, and then we look to try and offer you some money based upon the fact that it's going to be working. But if you don't know it's working, or it's got a known fault, then, utilizing our time, when we're doing thousands and thousands of items, per week, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It's just not cost effective. So the idea would be that, we want to be sending you these tubs to collect these items, providing you with the right documentation, which, bearing in mind, if you go to a standard IT recycler, like one of the big guys, they are going to just straight up charge you. I mean, a company that comes off the top of my head, Procuri, for example, nothing bad about them at all. We've done some work with them before. Like a fourth generation laptop that, they would offer maybe like, 10 or 15 pounds. And then they'd still charge the customer. So, and then for example, might go, oh, well, I might buy from them. But, the idea is with someone like that, they're just doing mass quantities, So, trying to avoid or trying to get that slice of the pie, but, trying to get some value back to the customer rather than being charged for the service. That's the whole idea of what we're doing here. So, we previously worked with a company. I used to work for a company that had a website called Cash in Your Gadgets, and that was all trading in laptops and stuff like that from individuals. So I had a great deal of experience with this. And then we did a project with Global, a very big project, which was going to get investigated and all sorts. And that was 565 customers, but these customers were made redundant and were not paid their redundancy pay. So to say they were unhappy was an understatement. But again, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, yes, we are collecting them. Yes, I am aware of how to do it. Yes, we can take it, whether it be working or not. I think the only thing we would realistically be asking of you, of a customer, is to be giving us something that has, even if it has a known fault, some value. So ideally, like, not sending us laptops that have no screen, no motherboard. That
just the shell.
It's just harsh,
Yeah.
But I mean, again, if you turned around to someone like if you turned around to myself and said, or somebody on the team and said, look, I've got 20 laptops, but I've got 2 or 3 that are like that. Would you accept them? The likelihood is we're just going to go, yeah, throw them in. Like that was the whole point with the hard drives, is that when we were doing the initial calls, we were going to have customers that were going to go, well, yeah, we've got drives that are under 500 gig. We've got SCSIs, we've got IDEs, we've got SAS, we've got PATA, we've got all these. And they're like, are you going to take them? Yeah, we'll take all of them, because you've got to take into consideration that GDPR data, all this sort of stuff. The first collection is, we collect from you, we take everything. And then it might be that every 3 months we're doing a collection, or every 6 months we're doing a collection. It might only be that it's one tub. It might only be that it's only 30, 50 drives. But the second time around, the likelihood is they're going to be significantly more relevant. And the likelihood is that we're actually going to be paying you more money, more than likely, on the second one, if we find that the first one has considerable amounts of, drives that don't hold value. But you never know. With some of our customers, they are stockpiling a ridiculous amount of stuff. Phil is a perfect example. So yeah.
At least that could come useful for something there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with all those SSD upgrades everyone's doing these days, it's an ideal time to get obviously send over the hard drive you're replacing to Sam, because you're going to earn a good few quid with it, and more than likely the drive's going to be fine anyway if you're upgrading it. So, right, let's go on to comments. Right, self-plug here, Sharon Richards from Eurosoft, I see. So, she's saying, great show, Phil. Definitely money in securely wiped drives. Make some good points. Lots of outrageous choices. Glad Zero Data Windows tool doesn't hang. If you don't know, Zero Data is a tool from Eurosoft which does wipe drives. So if you do need it to wipe drives, and you're doing it yourself rather than sending it to Sam to do it all for you and get money for it, you can always go and look at Eurosoft. I think Eurosoft's actually going to be at TechMax as well, so if you actually want to have a word with them about their other testing tools as well, you can do that. So let's move on to the next question I've got, which was, what happens with the bad drives? What do you do? Shred them? Give them somewhere? Do anything with them?
We try and repair them. That's the idea a lot of the time. That's why we can offer money on the drives that are 80 to 95%, the 95 to 100%. You know, so you know, yeah, we're always not recycling. I mean, I know the company name is Recycle. Yeah. It's reusing. That's what we want to do. Yeah. You know, this is what's environmentally friendly. I mean, you know, whether you're using the service because, you know, you want to be green, you know, whether you want to, you know, lower the carbon and all this sort of stuff. I mean, these are all things that businesses, and I mean, essentially all of the companies on the group should be pushing to businesses. You know, businesses that you're working with, is that, like, you know, do you have a plan in place? I mean, they're already doing this with larger companies already. They're saying to them, look, you need to have a 10-year plan of how you are going to lower energy and you know, all stuff like that, you know, so that, you know, you are as efficient as possible, because we're all aware of what's going on, right? So, you know, this is something that you should be making your customers aware of. You know, and what we can do for you, you know, is not only, you know, doing that, but at the same time offering you money for it. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, you know, just a quick one to go back to what, you know, Sharon was saying there. I mean, look, as I said, you know, even if you're not using the service, like, you can still wipe and use our service. Like, you know, like, some people don't want to have the drives taken away, you know, without them being wiped. So that's absolutely fine. But sorry, the original question, my mind just went a bit blank then. Sorry.
Was what would you do with the drives, the dead drives, the bad ones?
So part of it's about repairing, but then the rest of the drives, when we've attempted the repair, which primarily is more on the sort of more up to date hard drives like Western Digital and Seagate, Hitachi and Toshiba are a little bit more difficult to do. But in regards to them, there are companies that you know, will do this more to a more sort of, I don't want to say like full on sort of level, like a higher level than us. But they're few and far between, and require massive quantities for it to even be worthwhile, you know. So this is another reason where, you know, we've set up that network and have the right accreditations and whatever in order to be able to collect the equipment, where we can combine all of this together. So, you know, Mark Dennis, for example, goes to one of these companies and says, you know, which might be in Germany or whatever. I mean, most, you know, 2 or 3, I think, in Europe. But you might go to one of these companies and say, like, look, you know, I want to use your service, and they're going to go, no, you know, because there's just not enough. There's just not, you know. Are they going to do the collection for you? No. You know, the documentation. I mean, it's crazy, but I even struggle to get the documentation out of them. But that's why we do the wiping ourselves. So with the repair drives, you know, we will attempt to repair. If we can't repair them, we might utilize somebody else's skill sets. But again, if we then find that we get to a point where we can't repair them, or we don't think it's worthwhile, there are a couple of options. So initially, the destruction certificate would be the primary one, where we would shred. But with some customers, what we're finding is and we're doing this quite regularly, when we talk to customers on the phone, and a lot of the reason for this podcast and also for the newsletter that we're going to do, which I hope if I put anyone on there, they understand that the service is, if you don't want to be on it, bring yourself off. But the whole idea is to show you guys about what we're doing. So I keep losing my train of thought there, but in regards to the drives and the faulty ones, the whole idea of what we're doing here is to try and, instead of me doing 40-50 phone calls a day, is to get this out there, get you guys aware of it, and then with the drives that we can't repair, what we want to try and do is avoid shredding them if we can, and we want to try to again reuse them. So the next step that we get on from not being able to repair is who can then use these drives, right? So this is where we start to find like East Anglian data recovery services. We start to find like Lazarus and other people like this, but primarily it's more Alison that we deal with, because I've known Alison for quite a while from the group and whatever, and she's come down to visit us. She's a very, very nice lady. And what we find is that with these machines, with these drives, if we can send them in a secure manner to them at no cost, they can take any parts that they require. Anything that they don't want, eventually that would be shredded. But we're taking as much as we possibly can from that drive, to be as environmentally friendly as possible. And the other thing, not only am I plugging Alison, which is fantastic for her and her company, but at the same time, if we can utilize your drives in the best way possible by giving you doing the collection, which is the easiest thing in the world, giving you money wherever we can possible, giving you all the right documentation so that if you get audited, you don't get fined or whatever else. And then the best thing about it is, if we can repair drives, great, that's brilliant, because that means that there's less potential for them to go to a non-environmentally friendly place. But any of the drives that are left over, if we can send them over to Alison, for example, she can take any parts that she requires. You've got to take into consideration here that she can be using those parts with your service, with her services that you might require at one point or another. And it may be that you have given the drive to me that I've given to her that has then helped you down the line in order to do the recovery on that particular drive that you have down the line. So, the whole circle, economy and whatever else, that is, what it's all about, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. So hopefully you guys and girls will all be on board with what we're doing here. So effectively that is what we can do. So we're trying to do everything possible to not recycle but reuse.
That's pretty good. I'm going to say we've had one or two questions come in before the show, but I think you've pretty much answered all of them within everything you're saying. Obviously, it's as if you know what you're talking about. So, what we'll do, there you go. Well, we get questions sometimes like that. It's like, oh, you know how to repair a computer? And it's like, yeah, you're in a computer repair store. What do you expect? But yeah, just had someone message me on Facebook asking, can I show the prices again? So I'm just going to put those on the screen. While I do that, Sam, if you just want to do a real brief breakdown, 2-3 paragraphs, take a couple of minutes, that's all, before we end the show, and just basically say why people should do it. For anyone who missed the beginning of the show, why should people send you drives?
Okay, so effectively, you're going to be in a position with these drives or components that you've got where you could either use eBay. What you're going to do, you've got ones that are 100% you could resell, but then you've got all the other drives that have failed. What are you going to do with them, right? So the idea is that you've got a company that will do shredding that's going to charge you. You've got a company which is, again, not environmentally friendly, in my opinion. You've got a company that's going to collect them from you, potentially, might not, but if they do, they're going to data wipe them. Again, they're going to charge you. Best case scenario is you're going to get scrappage value. Now, bear in mind here, when you're looking at the prices, for a 2.5-inch hard drive, doesn't matter what the size is and what the health is, they're going to give you 6p. And with a PC drive, they're going to give you 30p. It is disgustingly bad. And the documentation they're going to give you is just not there, and you'd be required to take them there. So why not use a service where we can send you out secure tubs? All of it's built into the service, and worst case scenario, if there's no value in your drives, we're not going to charge you. We're going to be able to collect those drives, get them back, give you the documentation so you don't get audited or fined. And then the best thing about it is that it's highly likely that we're going to give you value. And off the back of that, if we can't repair them and we can't offer you money on them, if there's drives that that are outside of the value drives and outside of the repair ones we can repair, then we're going to push them over to East Anglian Data Recovery Services is a perfect example, which could be utilized against one of your drives that you need in the future when using her service. I mean, if that doesn't sum it up, then I don't know what does.
I think you pretty much covered it there, to be honest with you, Sam. So I think everyone saw the prices there as well. So if anyone wants to get hold of you, Sam, obviously they can get hold of you in the Tech for Tech groups. If obviously you are a member in Tech for Techs, then just do a shout out. Who's the guy who does the hard drive repairs? I'll link you in or whatever. I'll tell you where to go. But is there an easier way for people to get hold of you? Is it best for them to email you or just go to your website? Or
yeah, I mean, the easiest way is going to be to just go onto the Risaki Tech website and go onto the contact form there. I mean, it gives you a drop down. Do you want to do, wiping, shredding, or whatever else? I mean, if you just, whatever you're doing on the contact form, it doesn't matter what option you choose. As long as you've got in the form there, what is the most important thing for me when we're going to be doing a collection is how many of the big or 3.5 inch drives you have and how many of the 2.5 inch sort of laptop drives you have. Once I know how many of those you've got, we're restricted by weight, remember? So then I know how many tubs are needed in order to collect. In regards to your address and all that, I mean, you can put that. It's very straightforward. So once I've got those details, we send you a tub, you put them in, and then the process starts. So it's so straightforward. It's so straightforward. Yeah. So yeah, the website would be the best way because that will go directly through to the sales team and then potentially onto me if required. So.
And that's pretty good then. And again, there's no charge for the customer or anything like that. So it's just
worst case scenario is no charge at all. Best case scenario is that they're going to get money in all their documentation. So
you could have a good few £100 adding up there, trading all those drives in. So right, guys, so it's pretty much the end of the show. So it's nearly 9 o'clock. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone for coming. But if you do have any more questions and you are attending TechMax, Sam is going to be at TechMax as well as EADR, which you mentioned. That's Alison with data recovery, and even Eurosoft, who commented about their own software as well. They'll all be at TechMax in June. We'll probably be doing another show which might involve Sam in a few weeks' time, so we'll obviously announce that a bit later when we've got full details. But otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you for everyone for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday. But one thing to remember, next Thursday we're on at a different time. There's a one-off. We are on at 2 p.m, so that's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the show will be question and answers with, if I can get rid of the message what's on the front of the screen, question and answers with Paul Cubbage, who is the old managing director, should we say, and the new target managing director, Michael Lawrence, and that is on Thursday, the 31st this month at 2 p.m. So next Thursday at 2 p.m, not 8, 2. Okay? So otherwise, that's pretty much it for the show. I'd just like to say thanks again to Sam for actually joining us and telling us all about how to make money with stuff we've just got laying around and how you can also help the environment as well. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week, and thanks for joining and thanks for watching. See you later, everyone.
Thank you.